I said, you know what, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to do something better. I'll preach about it. So, we'll start out with the Cubs first. So, in 108 years, the Cubs haven't won the World Series. You guys watch the Cubs this week? 108 years. I don't think any of us were around then. You know? I don't think so. Joe, you weren't around. I know that. You're 25. So, 108 years. Can you imagine that? Woo. So, what had happened is Jason Hayward, the 17 minutes, some people were saying the biggest 17 minutes of the Cubs' history was Jason Hayward, the right fielder. They had a rain delay, and he went in and gave him a pep talk. And when he gave him a pep talk, it was so important what he did. Now, the Cubs had a 3-run lead going in. They had 4 outs to hit to finally win a World Series after 108 years. So what they did, their closer, who has been lights out all year, gave up a run. Then he gave up another 2-run home run. It was 6-6. So then it started raining in the 10th inning. So Jason Hayward calls the guys together in the game, and the coaches weren't allowed in. They were in the weight room, and he's telling them, we're good. We're good. Keep playing. Keep going on. We won 103 games this year. We're going to win the World Series. Just keep grinding it out and keep playing. And they went out there after his speech, and they scored 2 runs. And in the bottom of the 11th, they held on and won 8-7. And they won the World Series the first time in 108 years. And Chicago was going crazy, and they're still going crazy. So the pep talk. Now, Jesus gives us a pep talk here. Jesus gives his disciples a pep talk. This is called the Sermon on the Plain. And he's given the disciples and anybody around a pep talk. Now, this pep talk's even better. Because he says, those that are poor, you will be rich. Those that are hated, you will be liked. Those that are excluded, you will be included. Those that are hungry, you will no longer hunger. Those that are grieving, you will no longer grieve. So this is the pep talk. But in verse 23, here's where the great pep talk is. As Jason Hayward said, they would win the World Series. Jesus gives a better pep talk. He gives them a better thing. He says, verse 23, your reward is in heaven. He gives them the reward in heaven, those that are poor. But this is what we call, this text is what we call the Beatitudes. Now, Matthew's Gospel has one, and Luke's Gospel has one. So the Beatitudes, Matthew's Gospel is called the Sermon on the Mount. Luke's is called the Sermon on the Plain. 2 different stories. Same stories, very different. The approach of Luke's Gospel is harsher. Jesus has no excuses, no judgment, and he says anyone who has resources needs to take care of the poor. And he uses woes. Matthew's Gospel doesn't use woes, but the Sermon on the Plain, Luke's Gospel, uses woes. And he says, woe to you that are poor, that are rich, you will be poor. Woe to you that are well fed, you will hunger. Woe to you that are happy, you will be sad. Woe to you that are loved, you will be hated. Woe to you that are included, you will be excluded. Jesus is not giving any excuses for those that are not taking care of the poor. No excuses and not making any judgments. And he uses woes. Luke's Gospel uses woes. Not taking any excuses. Being serious about this. So we have to make sure that we don't forget about those struck down by poverty. But sometimes we forget. The politicians on Tuesday will vote. And Tuesday we have a big decision to make. But the politicians, you see, they don't talk about poverty much. You see, when you listen to them, they talk middle up or upper class to middle. But they don't talk poverty. No one wants to talk poverty. No one knows about poverty. The church forgets to talk about poverty. Claudio Carvajal said in a prophetic sermon, he said, we don't talk about poverty. It's the last thing we talk about as preachers when we do prophetic sermons. Now, prophetic sermons are something we are for or against. It's either for or against guns and war. Something like that. We would be for or against it. That's a prophetic sermon. He says, the one thing, the least thing we talk about to a prophetic sermon is poverty. To fight against it. To get rid of hunger. It's the last thing we will talk about. And the church forgets that. And we have to not forget it and make sure, because Jesus has no excuses here. He is not letting any excuses. Those that have resources, take care of the poor. Woe to you. So we have, it's Sarah Abramsky in the book, The American Way of Poverty. She writes in there, you don't know poverty unless you live in poverty. So we have to realize that even though some of us may not live in poverty, we have to have dialogue and start to understand it a little bit better. Also understand the statistics better and how bad our country needs God. So some of her statistics, 1 in 6 Americans live under the poverty line. 1 in 5 are starving. 80% of them are children. The U.S. is the second highest in child poverty in the world. Programs assisting the poor are in dire straits. Poverty levels in the suburbs are almost up to 50%. Our lifestyles are being ruined by medical payments, treatment payments. Social Security and Medicare, a lot of you guys will know this. Social Security and Medicare pensions, you paid into it, right? You put your money into it, you're expecting something back. Guess what? You're not getting the same back. It's not an investment, it's a mugging. People have this option of either eating or warming their house. And if they're going to warm their house and do both, a lot of them use the oven, which is dangerous and can cause fires. High schools are seeing more and more homeless. Families are being homeless. It's no longer the individuals that are homeless. It's families now. They're living in tent communities, in cars, and out on the streets. One high school in California has 15% of their students enrolled that are homeless. 15%. Food banks have went up 73% since the recession, and food banks are having a hard time keeping up. But here's the funny thing. We spend $12 billion, right? $12 billion we spend on hair salons, other salons, and tanning beds. We spend $12 billion on the pornography industry. We spend over $100 billion per year on illegal drugs. And this election, these politicians have spent well over $2 billion. And don't get sick in this country. Do not get sick. If you're going to get sick in this country, have the best healthcare system, healthcare plan you can have. Because medical treatment payments will ruin you quick. In the book of Sarah Abramsky, she talks about Frank Nietzsche. And Frank Nietzsche was working, but he became diabetic where he couldn't work. He got sick. He had to go to the hospital. And when he went in the hospital, he had all these payments. And he had insurance, but he still had to pay 20% of the medical payments. It was $1 million bill. So he had to pay 20% of that. That's $200,000 if I'm doing the math correct. $200,000. And him and his wife works part-time. And together, they're still living under the poverty line, making less than $20,000. How is this man and his wife, who's living in a trailer park, ever going to pay $200,000? And it's happening to many of us. $200,000 is nothing for medical payment plans. It puts us into the millions. It buries us by millions. If he didn't have insurance, he would be buried by not only $200,000, but $1 million. How is he ever going to pay that? Don't get sick in this country. Don't get old in this country. So we have to ask, where is Jesus? Where is God? This country needs God now, quick. But you see, we have become so selfish and greedy. It's been the demise of this country. We forgot how we came into this country, and we established it through selflessness, working together, and taking care of our communities. but we forgot about it. It's about individualism. It's about selfishness. It's about greed. And we need God. But you ask where God is. God is with us through the suffering. He is with the one that has to decide if they're going to eat or warm their house. He is with the 1 in 6 that is suffering from poverty. He is with the 1 in 5 and 80% of children that are suffering from hunger. He's with them. Matthew 1:23 says, Emmanuel. She had a son named Emmanuel. God is with us. If you want to find God, go to the margins of society. He's there. Because you that are parents, okay, think about this. When your son or daughter suffers, you suffer too, right? It's the same way with God. When your son or daughter, your child of God suffers too. He's with us. He's with us in America. But our brothers and sisters, as Paul talks in the letter, we have to keep this in mind. We are all in the body of Christ. We're all brothers and sisters in Christ. So when our brother and sister are suffering, if my brother's homeless and I walk past him, and I don't even think twice about it, I just walk past him, and I make excuses, and this text says, do not make any excuses. He's well in them. Do not make any excuses. Oh, I'm walking past him. He's homeless. He wants to be out on the street. And I can't tell you how many times people have told me that. Oh, he just wants to be out on the street. It has to weigh. When your brother is on the street, it has to weigh in your conscience. You have to be thinking, how can I help this person? What can I do? It has to be weighing on your conscience somewhere, somehow. Because that's your brother. As he suffers, we got to suffer too. And if our sister's starving and her family's suffering from hunger, we can't be making excuses and say, oh, she's hungry, and make judgments that she's hungry because she don't want to work. We can't be making judgments. This text tells us, whoa, no excuses, no judgments. Take care of people that are living in poverty. And if our sister's starving, we have to, in our subconscious, in our conscious, we have to be thinking, because when she's suffering, we have to be suffering too. Because that's our sister. We've got to get rid of the selfishness, the greed, the individualism, and get back to America's roots. And get back to God, a selflessness, community, working together. So, you're probably saying, Pastor, how are we going to do this? All these statistics, it's just too much. It's so much going on. Our country's just a mess. How are we ever going to do this? Well, Rome wasn't built in a day. But as Jason Hayward said to his college teammates in the World Series right before they won, keep playing. The Carolina Panthers have this saying on defense. I'm going to put my hat on for my friends down in Carolina. This is for you guys. Put my hat on, Carolina. They have this saying, and it says on defense when they're playing, keep pounding. We have to keep pounding. We have to keep doing our food ministries. We have to keep doing outreach, our thrift shops, and keep having ideas of how we can help people that are stricken down in poverty. Just this week, I had 3 people, past 2 weeks, 3 people tell me their electric will be shut down. I don't know what to do. This is how bad our country is. We've got to keep pounding. We got to pound and pound out those who are suffering from poverty. We got to pound out those that are hungry. Get rid of it. We got to pound out all the grief. We got to pound out all the people that are hated. We got to pound out all that are spiritual. Townships don't want the people there because they're homeless and they have nowhere to stay. Yeah. They're left. We have to pound it out, not just magic trick, until slowly by slowly we smash it into smithereens. Joe, this is a true magic trick. And it disappears. We eradicate it. We eradicate hunger. We eradicate poverty. And we keep pounding day by day. Rome wasn't built in a year. So Barack Obama, either if you like him or not, I mentioned this in my sermon before. Whether you like him or you don't, he says, we have so much economics in this country. And we have so much economics. And this country is still one of the best countries economically. Why are people suffering from poverty? And if you look at all the millionaires and billionaires in this world, we have to ask ourselves, why are so many people in this world suffering from poverty and hunger? Selfishness, greed, individualism. We got to keep pounding. So let's work together. Let's be selfless. Let's work with God. And let's not be greedy. So we got to keep pounding. Let's make no excuses. This text tells us no excuses. Let's not make any judgments on anybody. Let's eradicate hunger. Let's eradicate poverty. Slowly but surely. And let's keep pounding. Amen.